So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shen, and today I'm going to tell you our work on inaudible voice commands. This is a joint work of Nirupam, myself, Haitham, and Ramit, and we are all from University of Illinois. Voice assistants, such as Amazon Echo and Google Home, have begun to percolate our homes. 50 million such devices have already been sold, and the market projections are absolutely staggering. But recent research have shown that these devices are all susceptible to inaudible acoustic attacks. In case you are not familiar with this concept, let me quickly tell you what that is. Normal sound, which is below 24 kilohertz, is both audible to humans and recordable by microphones. Ultrasound, which is above 25 kilohertz, is neither audible to humans nor recordable by the microphones. We actually have designed inaudible acoustics, which is also above 25 kilohertz, so we as humans cannot hear it, of course, but all the microphones are able to hear it as if it is a normal sound that has low frequencies. So you might wonder, how come this is possible? Before I explain that, I want to mention that with inaudible acoustics, there are many applications. But one application that has become interesting nowadays is to attack voice assistants. Imagine someone standing outside of your house, sending a voice signal which is inaudible, and the signal is, "Alexa, open your garage door." Even if you are in the house, you don't hear it. But your Amazon Echo device will open the garage door for him. Let me quickly show you a video demo of this. A human speaker is now asking Alexa a question.
Alexa, what's the capital city of the United States?
The United States capital city is Washington, D.C.
Now let's ask the same question using inaudible acoustics.
The United States capital city is Washington, D.C.
Clearly, you and I will not be able to hear the sound, but Amazon Echo will, and respond as if it is a normal voice command. So what I have shown you thus far has already been done in the past. The first work is ours called Backdoor in Mobsys 2017, which was the best paper, followed by Dolphin attack in CCS, as well as a video report from Princeton also showing this possibility. Today's talk builds on these works, and we focus on 2 points. First, all these attacks are designed within a short range. Can we launch a longer range attack? What are the challenges? What are the difficulties? Second, can we even defend against these attacks? Let me start with the first one. And to begin with, let's look at how these attacks work and what are the problems. All the microphones share a pretty similar architecture. The last step is ADC. And before this ADC, there is a filter. The filter eliminates any frequencies above 24 kilohertz. But even before the filter, there is a diaphragm and an amplifier. And the goal of these two components is to convert air vibration, which is sound, into electric voltage. Ideally, these two components should be linear, which means the input-output relationship should be a straight line. If we send an input V in, the output V out should be V in multiplied with the constant gain A1. So this is a linear relationship. But we observe that as we move to higher and higher frequencies, this amplifier is less and less linear, which means not only you observe a linear term A1 V in, you will see other terms like A2 V in squared and even higher order terms. And of course, these terms are very weak. But this nonlinear term serves as the core opportunity to design inaudible acoustics. Let's zoom in and see what is really happening. Here is a microphone that is listening to the sound from a speaker. As we said before, the microphone has a filter which eliminates any frequencies above 24 kilohertz. So what the microphone hears is audible sound. What it does not hear is inaudible sound. Now let's deliberately ask the speaker to send two high frequencies, F1 and F2. They are so high frequency that the microphone can never record it. But note that the microphone has nonlinearity. When these two frequencies goes through the nonlinear part, the V in squared term, it generates a bunch of new frequencies. Most of these new frequencies are even higher frequencies, so they will just be eliminated by this filter. They will not pass through the filter. But there is one last frequency, which is f1 minus f2, this delta frequency. If we design f1, f2 to be pretty close, then this delta frequency will be a low frequency, and it will just pass through this filter and be recorded by the microphone. So if we zoom out here, let's design two high frequencies to be pretty close. The delta frequency will be recorded by the microphones naturally. And of course, we do not need to send just one single frequency, right? We can send one frequency and a voice signal. And this voice signal can be a voice command, like Alexa, open the garage door. Because of non-linearity, this voice command will shift to low frequencies and be recorded by ambient echo. So here is a problem with all these attacks. They have to happen within a short range. Which means, as an attacker, I have to stand pretty close to the victim device to be able to attack it. So we want to ask, can someone launch this attack from a faraway distance? And this is going to be a much more alarming situation, because someone can attack your ambient echo from outside your house, or if you are in a park, someone sitting far away can attack your smartwatches and smartphones, as long as they are voice activated. But what is the problem here? We observe that as we move to faraway distances, we need to inject more power into our attack speakers. But as we inject more power into these speakers, they produce audible leakage. Even though we are sending high-frequency signals, they have audible leakages. So the takeaway message here is that high power makes these ultrasonic speakers audible. And this is not really surprising to us. Why? Because a speaker is pretty similar to a microphone. Whatever components a microphone has, the speaker has pretty much the same components in the reversed order, which means speakers have nonlinearity as well. So now let's zoom into a speaker and see what is really happening. Recall that what signal do we want to send to the speaker? We want to send voice signals, VT. And of course, we do not want to send it in low frequency. We want to make it inaudible. So we modulate the signal with a high frequency signal. So now we have a high frequency voice signal, Vin. We send this to the speaker as the attack signal. When this signal goes through the linear part of the speaker, it comes out as A1 Vin. This is the signal we desire to attack those ambient echo devices. But going through the nonlinear channel, which is A2 Vin squared, it actually creates two leakages. The first leakage is at very, very high frequencies, and the second one is at very low frequencies. Of course, as an attacker, I don't really care about high frequency leakage, because that's anyway inaudible to others. No one will notice my attack. But this low frequency leakage is really a big problem to me. To make the problem worse, all the speakers have this nonlinearity, which means we just cannot avoid this leakage. At best, we can minimize it. So our solution is to design an optimized way to minimize this leakage. Let me now tell you our core idea. So recall that this green signal is the one we send to the speaker. This green output is the one we desire. This red one leakage is the one we don't want. If we look at this problem from a frequency point of view, denote the input signal has a frequency spectrum of VF. This low frequency leakage is VF convolved with V minus F, because in time domain it's VT squared. Okay? So now, if the input signal has a bandwidth of B, we can prove that the low frequency leakage also has a bandwidth of B. So now is our idea. Let's chop the signal in frequency domain to make it into narrowband segments. We send one narrowband segment into one speaker. This speaker generates the corresponding output, as well as a narrowband leakage in the very low frequencies. We send another narrowband segment to another speaker, which generates another desired signal and another narrowband leakage at the baseband. And this leakage falls on top of the first leakage. We chop the entire signal and send it to each of the speakers in the speaker array, and we are able to generate this attack voice while keeping this low frequency leakage a very narrow band. But we are not done yet, this is still not fully optimized. If we zoom into this leakage shape, even if it is a narrow band, by chopping in different ways, we observe different shapes of the leakage. So which shape is the best shape? We take opportunities from human hearing abilities. We as humans can hear high frequencies better than lower frequencies. And this can be modeled by a curve called human hearing threshold. Above this curve, the sound is loud enough for us to hear it. Below this curve, the sound is inaudible. Our goal is really to push our leakage shape as below this curve as possible. So we model this as an optimization problem, where we want to maximize the minimum gap between the human hearing threshold and the leakage shape. We look at different chopping solutions, find the one that maximizes this gap, and we chop the signal in this optimized way, which generates a leakage at the baseband that is very narrow band and is inaudible to others. While at the speaker, this attack voice still gets shifted to lower frequencies, and the ambient echo will respond to this voice signal as if it's a normal voice command. Let me now show you our experimental platform. We have used 61 ultrasonic piezoelectric speakers arranged in a hexagonal shape, and we tested 3 different voice assistants. One is Amazon Echo, one is Siri on the iPhone, and the last one is Samsung S Voice on the Android phone. I'm going to show you another video demo here, where we put the speaker array 25 feet away from Amazon Echo and asking the same question. Now it's asking the question.
The United States capital city is Washington, D.C.
Still, Amazon Echo responds. As part of the evaluation, we first want to see how far can we reach if we want to activate these devices using the wake-up words. You know, these devices are very well designed to listen to the wake-up word, like Alexa, Hey Siri, OK Google. And we observe that statistically, we can achieve 24 to 30 feet to activate these devices successfully. And we also tested how far can we go if we want the devices to accurately decode every single word in the entire sentence. And because this is more difficult, our attack range reduces a little bit. So someone would ask, how far can you go eventually? What is the maximum distance you can ever achieve? Well, we are currently bottlenecked by our speaker power. So we increased the power from 2 volts all the way up to 6 volts, which is the maximum power we can ever achieve now. And the attack distance has increased, and we have not observed any saturation yet. Due to hardware limitation, we cannot exceed this power level, but we believe if we can inject more powers, we are going to achieve even longer attack distance. So I have talked about how to achieve a long-range attack without being audible. Now let's shift our perspective and see how can we defend against these attacks without really touching these hardwares. So here is our core problem. Taking the microphone recording signals in software, can you tell, is it actual human voice, or is it coming from some voice attack? If it's human voice, VT, then the microphone will just hear VT, nothing else. If it's inaudible voice attack, then the microphone will hear VT, of course, but because of non-linearity, it hears some other terms, like VT squared. But of course, these terms are very weak. So essentially, this problem is, can we detect VT and VT squared in the recording? However, decoupling these 2 terms is very difficult. We don't know VT beforehand, and there are environment noise, which is going to pollute the microphone recordings. So this is very difficult, and our solution is to apply signal forensics to detect either any VT squared term in our recordings. And luckily, human voice presents a few opportunities for us. Let me start with the first one. We as humans cannot produce any frequency below 50 hertz. We produce fundamental frequencies, which is already above 50 hertz, and all the harmonic frequencies, which are even higher. But this is voice signal VT. If this is an inaudible attack, it has VT squared term. And VT squared will have energies in the sub 50 hertz band. So if we observe a strong energy in this band, that means it must come from an attack. It's not going to be actual human voice. This is a good feature. It's not perfect, because sometimes the environment noise, such as refrigerators, AC noise, they might add energy into this sub-50 Hertz band. So we observe another opportunity to cope with this issue. If we look at the energy variation in the voice fundamental frequencies, and we look at the energy variation in this sub-50 Hertz band, if these two are very correlated, that means it must come from attack. Because if it's environment noise, that will never correlate with my actual human voice. So this correlation serves as the second feature where we can tell is it an attack or is it actually human voice. And finally, we show that Vt, the human voice, is a signal that is oscillating above and below 0. But if you look at Vt squared, it is always positive. So when these two adds up together at the microphone recordings, it is actually creating a signal that has positive amplitude skewness. So this amplitude skew is our third feature to tell is it an attack or is it human voice. We combine these three features together, and it turns out in many test cases, we can easily differentiate actual attacks or is it real human voice. And further, we test across different loudness of the sound, different background sound loudness, and different noise profiles. And on average, we can achieve 99% accuracy. Okay, to summarize my talk, we have designed inaudible acoustics, which is above 25 kilohertz, so no one can hear it, but all the microphones naturally record it as if it's a normal sound. But when we increase the attack distance, we observe that the speakers start to generate audible leakages. In this work, we design a new attack such that no one can notice this attack, even if we inject a lot of power into the speakers. And the way we solve this problem is to combine speaker arrays with human hearing abilities. And finally, we show that by applying signal forensics, we are able to tell an attack from actual human voice, even at the software layer, and we don't need to touch the microphones at all. That's the end of my talk, and I'm glad to take questions.
Okay, well, people walking up, I'll ask a question. So you are using microphone array,
speaker array.
Speaker array.
Yeah.
You use each speaker to send a different band of signal, right?
Yes.
Therefore, they can end up together to form a shape you want, right?
Right.
But why don't you just use the speaker array to do beamforming, right? You would be able to rate using the same output power, total power, but have a much higher received signal noise ratio.
Well,
right? That would kill the original problem. Your original problem is when your output power too high, the nonlinearity is going to create audible sound.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. My suggestion would be, why don't you use low transmission power, but use the array of speakers to form beam.
Right.
And therefore, you could use low transmission power to achieve the much higher signal, received signal.
So Lin's point is, why don't you use speaker array to beamform, so that even if you do not need a lot of power, and still you can attack these microphones. So what I want to say is, we are sending very high frequencies, and they are already beamforming. High frequency signals are naturally beamforming towards the direction where you are pointing to.
But by using array, you can additionally beamforming, right? You could make the sound even more narrower, right? Basically, you want to reduce the waste. You don't want the sound to go to other place. You want the sound to pinpoint, just go to the receiver, right?
Right, but if you look at each speaker's, the speaker in the speaker array, if you look at each speaker's beam pattern, in those super high frequency region, they are already just one beam pointing toward the front direction. So,
we can take this offline.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Since each speaker in the speaker array has different characteristics, could you comment on how you make sure that basically your audible part of the signal will come out as it's supposed to? How do you make that work?
Are you saying that are the speakers different in the speaker array?
I don't know. I'm asking that question.
That's the same speaker we are using. We are using all the same speakers.
Okay, so they're all the same, basically.
61 same speakers.
The same. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I just want to say it's an amazing idea, amazing work. So I have two quick questions. So probably I missed this, but in your demo, the video, how come the camera didn't record the inaudible injection signal?
Right. That's a very, very good question. We have struggled a lot how to make this camera microphone not record this attack voice. We cannot do it. And the way we solve this problem is really to move the camera far away. And then we zoom into this view such that we don't record it.
Got it. So second question is, I expect that different microphones may have different non-linearities, which means the complex gains of those higher order terms may be different.
Right.
This is also pointed out by the Dolphin Attack paper. So I wonder if it's possible to utilize this property to achieve more fine-grained jamming. That is, for example, you play this specially crafted inaudible sound, and it only jams some certain microphones, but not the others. So do you think from a high level this is possible?
If you fully understand every characteristics of the microphones, I believe that is possible, but that is hard. The reason being that you want to design a level of the power such that they can activate, say, ambient echo, but they cannot activate Google Home. This is your question, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Personally, I do not know how different these microphones are in these devices, but if they are very different, I believe that's possible, but I cannot guarantee that.
Okay, thank you.
So it's very interesting work. So my question here is that these sound waves are do not have really good penetration characteristics, so that you cannot have a speaker outside the home, for example. So is it possible to do similar attacks with higher frequency that have better penetration through walls and through objects? And things?
Right. So the question is, can you actually penetrate the walls and say windows with this high frequency sound? So I want to mention 3 points here. So first, we tested with open windows and open doors. There is no problem, even if there are reflections. But second, we have not successfully penetrated the walls and the windows. The reason being that if you want the sound to penetrate them, you really need to inject much, much more power. And we have not achieved that step yet. And the third one I want to say is that actually this technique creates a lot more like threats, right? So say other than attacking your ambient echo in your home, if you are in the open space, in the park, I can attack anyone like randomly. So I would say this is a much more alarming situation. Thanks.
Last question.
Hey, yeah. So this is really cool work. Nice, way to highlight this issue. It seems like you in the intro, maybe I missed this, but it seems like in the intro you talk about Amazon Echo and Google Home, right. But in the evaluation you analyze Echo and Siri and Samsung, but not Google Home. Was there some reason that you didn't include that in your analysis?
I think the reason being that Nirupam, which is the first author, he did not buy a Google Home because he thinks ambient echo is similar.
Hey, Google folks, donate someone.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I work at Google. So.
Yes.
He tested a
They
Google.
feel insulted you didn't test Google Home.
It's just, it's a...
But I want to mention one more point.
Yeah, go ahead.
He tested Google Assistant on a Google phone, and that works.
Okay, so it's not, there's not some fundamental difference in the hardware. It's just you didn't have enough time or didn't buy the hardware. Yeah,
right.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Shen. Very interesting talk. Thank you, speaker.